good morning, and it really is morning. It's like 3:30 in the morning. Okay, this video is a follow-up to a post that I made that I was going to be on Red Eye Radio because they started bringing up the whole thing about, the constitutionality and the eligibility of Kamala Harris. Okay, let me explain this because it's really important. This is not birther theory. This is constitutional law. I hope to educate and give you guys enough information that makes you go, and then look into it yourself. It's to arm you maybe with something that you didn't know, and I'd like to clarify. So let me go on with the point. Okay, this whole thing that came up, and there was an article of all places, Newsweek, by an author who is a constitutional lawyer that says, wait a minute, Kamala may not be eligible. And he went on to write his article, and of course he was tapped. So here's what he is talking to. I didn't even read the article. Here's what he's talking about. I already know. And let me explain this. When people say, well, the 14th Amendment says if you are born here, you are a citizen. That's not true. That's not the end of the story. This is like me telling you, well, I read the Bible and I only read the New Testament. Well, the Bible is 2 books. I can't read from page 1 to 300 and in a 600-page book and say, well, I read the Bible. I only read half the Bible. So this is the same thing with the clause. The clause is a conjunction, a but. In other words, it's everything here is true, but. So let me explain that. I will read the clause to you, and I will explain to you what this means. It states, of the 14th Amendment, every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to the jurisdiction is by virtue of natural law and natural law a citizen of the United States. But this will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to families of ambassadors, or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of citizen thereof. So what does all of that mean? That means, every person born in the United States is a citizen, but subject to the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction in this language has nothing to do with geography. Jurisdiction in this language has everything to do with allegiance. So let me continue. So here's an example. Your house burns down. You come up to me and you go, hey, Michael, my house burned down. Can me and my kids stay with you? And I go, of course. Come on in. You may be in my house, but who's got jurisdiction over your kids? You do. They're not my kids. They're your kids. They got to listen to you. Okay? That's what that means. So by having jurisdiction over your children, they are then, by definition, allegiant to your rule. Let me go a little further. When this was being argued in 1866, and again in 1868 when it became ratified between Senator Turnbull and Senator Jacob Howard, who happened to be the author of it, it clearly stated, okay, listen, what do we do with the Indians? The whole reason why the 14th Amendment came to be was because after the war, the blacks were now, they were roaming around. It's like they came from Africa. They've been here for years. What do you do with them? So you made them citizens. That's what the 14th Amendment did. Okay, so then the question came up about, well, if that's all that you need to be as a citizen, what about the Indians? That was argued for a year and a half. And finally Congress said, you know what? Forget about it. Let's leave them off. Because they're not going to be allegiant to the United States government. Who were they going to be allegiant to? They were going to be allegiant to their tribes. So they left them off, and then in 1923, they took up the 1924 Indian Immigration Act. That's when it was finalized. It was started the arguments in 23. It was finalized in 24. The reason why they had to bring that up was because the 14th Amendment in this particular case did not address it. And the fact that now you've got to create a law specifically to address it means that wording of, well, everybody born in the USA within the borders is a citizen. Well, that wasn't true because the Indians weren't going to show allegiance, so there was no jurisdiction over them. So people need to understand this. It's very important. Okay, now, you guys can haggle out there about is she a citizen, is she not. The point is that her parents were here on visas. Were they going to be allegiant? Let me give you another example. You're on vacation. You're going to Italy. All of a sudden, your wife decides, you know what, I'm going to give birth, and now I'm here in Rome. Okay, the child may have dual citizenship because he was born in Italy. But when you go back home, you're going back home to the United States. So who's got jurisdiction? You do. You're the parent. What nation are you from? What nation are you leaving to? The United States. That's why the kid goes back home to you. That's why you have say. Because you got jurisdiction over that child, thus the allegiance of that child belongs to you. Here's where it's different with Obama and even before Obama. This didn't come up with Obama. This came up initially with Barry Goldwater when he was running for president in 1964. When Goldwater was running for president, they jumped on this jurisdiction question. They jumped on the citizenship question. This happened before, before Obama. Reason why is because Barry Goldwater was born in Arizona in 1909. Arizona did not become a state until 1912. So they said, well, wait a second, is he a citizen? Well, in this case, he was. And he did fall in line with the jurisdiction and the allegiance. Now, with Kamala Harris, that may not be the case because their parents were here on visas. So by their parents being here on visas, did not show allegiance to the United States, thus no jurisdiction. So I'll leave that to the lawyers, but I want to make sure you guys, my pals, are educated enough to have this argument. Don't be afraid to have the argument. When you got the wording of the law behind you and you got me on speed dial, don't be afraid of the argument. Get me involved, or I'll help you get involved. But don't be afraid. They're going to call you conspiracy theory. They're going to call you a birther. Who cares what they call you? You listen to me. I'm telling you what's right. Have a good morning or a good night.